From the shadows of doubt to embracing the light. Welcome to the journey. Feel the beat in your soul. From caving in to crushing it. Join us, let's roll.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Drew Deraney here, host of From Caving In to Crushing It. So excited to have the audience here to meet our next guest. Today's guest is Adria Gross, and you guys are going to love her. I'm going to tell you a little about Adria. Medwise Insurance Advocacy CEO Adria Goldman Gross is a renowned figure in the New York area and across the country as a result of her extensive referral network of well-satisfied clients. Her clients are thrilled to refer friends and relatives in need of her unique talent as a medical claim advocate, dealing with complex medical billing put forth by the interface of the healthcare delivery system and insurance marketplace. Adria has 35 years of experience in the insurance and advocacy field. She uncovers discrepancies in diagnostic and procedure coding, finds loopholes through which insurance companies attempt to deny claims, and helps attorneys, individuals, and families resolve medical claim matters, usually reducing medical bills and liens. She is a hero to her clients, and she makes lawyers superheroes to theirs. With her background in the insurance industry, Adria brings to her work a depth knowledge that few others have. She started her own business in 2007, and in spite of her own health issues, has grown that business and helped many clients who have been overwhelmed by their healthcare issues. She is considered to be someone who has great strength of character and who brings empathy and concern to her clients' needs. She does not give up and truly goes the extra mile for her clients. Her colleagues can attest to her integrity and support she provides them when they call upon her for help. Ms. Gross worked for 2 insurance companies, and now she uses that knowledge to save clients big money. She has achieved extraordinary results for her clients by working out highly beneficial arrangements for those who have exhausted all other options. Adria is the co-author of Solved, Curing Your Medical Insurance Problems, and Multi-Payer Medicine Nightmare Made in the USA, endorsed by Ralph Nader. In 2024, she published another book, Apparently Different. With healthcare costs skyrocketing and the health insurance industry becoming increasingly complicated, Adria is an asset to our communities. She has saved her clients in excess of millions of dollars annually and received well-deserved accolades for her professional accomplishments, community leadership, and passion for service, ranging from the 2008 Insurance Professional of the Year Award, Insurance Professionals of Orange County, New York, to the 2009 Pinnacle Leadership Orange Award, to the 2011 Volunteer of the Year Award, Mental Health Association of Orange County, to being recognized as a Woman of Achievement in 2013 by New York's WCBS News Radio 880, and in 2016 named the Advocate of Good Housekeeping, and in 2023 received Insurance Professionals of New York State Quarter Century Club Award. So looking forward to this. Please, let's bring in Adria Gross, today's guest. Adria, what a bio.
Thank you.
Unbelievable. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. So my audience knows I always thank the person who introduced me to my guest. And today I'd like to thank the one and only Jojo Laricia. Jojo, thank you so much for introducing me to Adria. I really appreciate you, Jojo. So my audience knows I always talk about how when we're young, we're taught that life is linear. We're told that if we do A plus B plus C, D is going to happen. And for the most part, our lives are linear until they're not. Ultimately, an external circumstance happens and gets in between one of those letters, kind of changing our straight path to a more circuitous one. When that happens, that means adversity has now reared its ugly head. And when adversity shows up, we either don't see it, or if we do see it, we run away, or we confront it. Because of that, I believe there's 3 types of people. man or woman number one has a ton of blind spots. He or she does not see that adversity or that defining moment, and they don't do anything about it because they just think they're living life the way other people tell them to, and they go about their way without any changes. Then there's man and woman number two. They see the adversity, yet they say life is doing it to them. They're blaming everybody. They're the victim. They believe they can't change anything, and they don't. And they have a ton of regrets. And then you have man or woman number three. That's who I have on this show. Woman number three, specifically Adria Gross, saw adversity and said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. This adversity is not a barrier. It's an opportunity for me to do something different. Life is doing it for me. Adria took it on head on and became a stronger woman because of it. So Adria, if you would, for our audience, if you can reach back as far as you need to for that defining moment, whether it was the tap on the shoulder, the whisper in the ear, like I needed 2x4 upside my head, that transformed you and impacted your life to change you from person one or two to the woman you are now. Would you care to share that story?
Every time I think about what happened to me, I think about where at the age of 11 and a half, my life went 180 degrees. Mm-hmm. It wasn't good. You know, I was in school. I wasn't feeling well. We had to write cities on a map. And all of a sudden, this thing comes over me. I was like, what's going on? I raised my hand. And finally, a friend of mine walked me down the hall. And I'll just share this with you. My friend later became a nurse. And the man who she's married to, she no longer works as a nurse, but the man she's married to is a neurologist. And what happened to me is after she walked me down the hall and I sat in a chair, I went into a coma. Wow. And about 2 hours later, my dad comes to get me. He realized that I could walk, but I couldn't talk. And so he's driving me home and he turns his car around and takes me to the hospital. So, all right. Now we're about 8 hours beyond that. And I wake up out of a coma and I look straight ahead and I see a cross on the wall thinking I'm in heaven. But to the right I was in Hebrew school when I got sick. To the right was the rabbi. To the left was my parents. I'm like, holy cow, where am I? And from that day on, I had an inflammation of the brain. It's called encephalitis. It's a type of sleeping sickness. And I lived with epilepsy for almost 25 years until I had a left temporal lobectomy. My seizures were averaging 18 a month. At one point, I was on 32 pills a day. My last book that I published talks about my seizures changing according to the medication you're on. And chapter 3 in the book is a comedy about what I would do when I was on this one medication. I had psychomotor seizures. It was a crazy situation. And it's people are going to cry or they're going to laugh. But, you know, when I look back, you know, I have to say I always prayed. And finally, when I had a left temporal lobectomy where they took the damage out of my brain, it was a while. It took me about 6 years to readjust my life, where I went back that 180 degrees. And you know, when I look at it, I was just telling somebody today, the fact that I was sick, the fact that I lived through this, I feel that I received a gift to have experienced this because I understand how other people might feel if they're sick. Right. You know, now, okay, my illnesses, I'm sure everybody's different. Everybody has different illnesses if they get sick. But I do believe that condition and living with all those seizures helped pave me to do what I'm doing now.
Unbelievable. And I do believe that too. I'm still amazed at 11 years old how you went from like that morning where you're feeling okay that morning before you went to school.
Yeah, it was like nothing was wrong. And we're sitting there with this exam. And all of a sudden, and my mother, God bless her, she always tried to make me clothing. She bought a sewing machine, and I was wearing a jumper, with a sweater. Okay. And I loved it. Was the only thing that she sewed in a straight line. So after getting well, I said, Mom, that's the only thing you ever sewed right. She said, it was bad luck. I'm not going to give it to you. We're throwing it out.
Oh, boy. So you're wearing the jumper that was sewed correctly, but you started not feeling well at school, and then just in the nurse's office, you just go into a coma. It's frightening. So when you came to and realized you were not in heaven, that you were how did you come to grips as an 11-year-old with what happened, and how'd you do it?
It was, everything that happens in our life when we become ill and how we cope with it. Everything is an adjustment.
Right. Yes. It
is.
is.
And hopefully anybody who has a condition, just talking about this reminds me of people who are so depressed they might commit suicide. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I fought. Even when they said to me, we're recommending that you have surgery, I was sitting there thinking to myself, okay, how am I going to feel if I'm not a handicap any longer? Here I was almost 25 years living as a handicap.
Right.
And I even had a handicap card, which I still have. Yeah. But I thought to myself, do I really want to let go of this? Do I want to take my chances and see if I could become well? And I have to tell you, I went to college. They did not give me any gripes at all about applying for school to be a teacher, but that was before the Act of 19. It was the ACA of 1990, and it was before that when I graduated college. And now you don't want to certify me because I walked out of a classroom due to a seizure. It's not my fault. You knew I had epilepsy before I came here. And now you're saying to me, why don't you leave and reapply in 2 years? I thought that was terrible.
Wait, that's what happened. Wait, you wanted to, how old were you at that point though?
I was 18 when I went to college.
Yeah.
Here I am. And I said to the university, I said, hey, I have epilepsy. Is that going to be an issue to become a teacher? Oh, absolutely not. And then I walk out of the classroom near where JoJo lives in Arlington, Massachusetts. I'm teaching 4th grade. And I walk out of the classroom and they called me in 2 weeks later and said, why don't you leave and reapply in 2 years? I said, hold on a minute. I said, you told me, it wasn't you, but the university accepted me, told me no problem. And now I didn't even know that I couldn't teach. And I realized I was living in New York at the time with my parents, in New Jersey and New York. I couldn't be a teacher if I wanted because I had epilepsy.
I'm shocked. Okay. Amazing. So what did you do? What did you do once they told you that?
Well, I said to them, hey, look, you know what? You've messed up my life. I wanted to be a teacher since I was 10 years old. Even when I was 10 years old, later on, I started YMCA. I had the ideas, things that I've accomplished in my life. Yeah. I had that idea when I was 10. So a lot of things that I wanted to do then, I've now accomplished. I'm so grateful. But I was being stopped because here they said, no problem. And now you're telling me to leave and reapply in 2 years. It's not going to happen. I said, you've messed up my life. You have a master's degree here for people who want to be a social worker. I said, I need credits to graduate. Let me take that because I can't do what I wanted to do all my life.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
So you ended up taking courses to get your master's in social work?
Well, I didn't get the master's, but I took courses because I had to get more credits to graduate. So instead of graduating that June, I graduated that following August, 2 months later. And then I was lost. And I'm thinking, where am I going to go? And I wound up working in a nursing home for a while. Right. And then, this was after college, and I didn't know where I was going. And finally, my parents said to me, Port Jervis, New York is no place to live because there's nothing to do here. You're not going to have a life here.
Right.
So I wound up moving into New York City, and I worked for a company that manufactured sleepwear. Okay. And every time I had a seizure, they'd wheel me down the hall into this room where we had lunch. I was always in my chair when I would go into, normally always in my chair when I had the seizure. Right. And they wheel me down, and then I come out of the seizure, and I would just wheel my chair back to the desk and go back to work. And they were good to me. I worked there for 10 years. They really, I have to say, they took care of me. And a lot of people who have a disability do not have that luxury of even getting a job. Yeah. Very true.
Yeah, very true. So they took care of you. And were you still working there when you had the surgery, or did you have
So what happened was the company was closing up. It used to be on the stock exchange. The name of the company was called Movie Star Incorporated. Oh, wow. and the owner passed away, and his son-in-law really couldn't handle the business. So then I went to another lingerie company. Okay. And I have to tell you, I said to them before I went to this other lingerie company, they hired me right on the spot. And I told them, I said, I just want to let you know, I'm being tested to see if I'm operable because I have epilepsy. Okay. So the doctors put me on myceline and Tegretol.
Okay.
And what was happening is, you want me to continue, or?
Yes, you can continue.
I hear the dog barking.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll keep Chloe quiet. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
So here I am, going to this new lingerie company, and I told them I had epilepsy, and they said, no problem, no problem. And my doctor had me on myceline and Tegretol. I would get up in the morning, take the medication, I was working right across the street from Macy's in New York City. Oh, wow. And I'd be there at my desk working, or trying to work, but I wouldn't even know that phone was ringing until noon because of the medication.
Right.
So they turned to me and they say, we're closing your position. We're not going to have, we're letting you go, and we're closing position. But I saw that they were interviewing people. So I called up the next week and found out that they hired somebody to take my position. So I called my doctor, and I called this guy who was a judge at the time. He told me what to do. So I applied for disability. I was on disability for about 16 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. And during that time period, I have the left temporal lobectomy. And right after that, when I had that surgery, I'll never forget, they have you hooked up to an electroencephalogram when they do the testing to see what areas of the brain you can take out. And it's very interesting. They ask you a question. Right. I didn't know I was awake, but they ask you a question. If you can answer, they can cut. If you can't answer, they can't cut, because they have the neurons on the brain as they're asking the questions.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyhow, the woman comes in the next day who was doing the electroencephalogram, and she says, Adria, they believe you're going to be seizure free. Great. Thank you. Wow. So it took me 6 years, but what happened was I had the surgery at the end of March, and the following December, after having a small position working on Wall Street, I wound up working at Blue Cross Blue Shield. And within 2 weeks, they taught me how to deny claims.
Wow.
So I worked there for 2 years, and then I went from there to American National Group. And again, within 2 weeks, they taught me how to deny. So at American National Group, I was on claims and underwriting. And I really learned the ropes on how to twist the arms of the insurance company if they deny a claim.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. The first thing they want to teach you is how to deny claims.
Right.
And you use that knowledge. As you gain that knowledge, you thought of the people who are having the claims denied against them.
Right.
And then you set out to go fix that problem.
Right. And, it's interesting because not only am I working with people, either the claims are denied, out of network, overcharged, they can't get pre-authorization, but people think that I'm an attorney, because what I do is if someone has a Medicare Advantage plan and they're getting thrown out of the rehab, I've learned how to apply to make the change. As long as they don't have dementia or Alzheimer's and they're improving while they're in the rehab, I overturn the cases, and I know just what a judge needs to go ahead and overturn it. And I go before the judges, and they always say to me, "Are you an attorney?" I say, "No." But, it's the years of experience that I know how to do that. Yeah. And then, like, let's say you have a long-term care policy, and you meet all the requirements on that policy, but they're denying you. Right. So I do the appeals to go ahead and make the changes.
Wow. So I read in your bio that in 2007 is when you started your company, your own business, right? So what made you want to leave the insurance industry and start your own business?
Oh my goodness, that's a long story. Why I left. I had adopted 2 children from Vietnam, and I couldn't commute any longer. And I finally said, okay, what can I do? And I'll never forget. I met this man, and he says, and I had 2 adopted kids from Vietnam. So I'm at this event for adopted children. We had parties for families, and he says, Adria, he says, look, if you open up a medical billing business, you can work from home. So I did that. And when you see all the mergers going on today, things that are going on, like even the hospitals with all the mergers, it's like, okay, I had to find something else. So there was a man who came to me, and he helped me open up my medical billing business through SCORE. He was, he works for SCORE. SCORE is a society of retired executives, which most of them are not retired anymore, but they help, and there's no charge for it. So anyhow, a year after I opened up the medical billing business, he comes to me and he says, Adria, he says, I want you to take a look at this. He says, I don't think I owe all this money. And I have a case right now in my hands, which started out at about $340,000, and I brought it down to, I think, less than 20. I'm waiting to hear back from the lawyers. Uh-huh. But in his case, he started out with 108, and I got him down to about 8. I think it was, I'm trying to remember the figure. I think it was 18,000. I got him down to 18,000 from 108. Wow. And that's all he had to pay back after he won his case in court, because he was in a restaurant that was supposed to be handicap accessible, which it was not, fell off the wheelchair, was hospitalized twice. And he says, I don't think all these bills are related to my injury. So we went from 108 down to 18 grand. Mm-hmm. And I get those cases where they know it's not related, or they're overbilling, and I save people tons of money. Now,
you also, so that was a medical bill and so you're able to prove that if they bill for it, you can tell if it's billed appropriately or inappropriately.
Well, sometimes what they do is listen, everybody wants a lot of money. Right. So they're always going to charge you more than they should. Okay. Right. So that's one issue. That alone is one issue.
Right.
And then, you wind up having an injury, like this other case I'm working on right now. It was an injury, and they can tell when you look at diagnoses, not necessarily the procedure codes, but when you look at the diagnosis and when you see what it's related to, you can tell, was this related to an injury or was it a sickness? And that's how you can decipher them.
Okay. So wow. So that's one thing you can do. Also, if a claim is denied, you can fight that too, right?
If it's something that should have been paid and I can prove it, mm-hmm. I get that overturned.
Okay. Other scenarios could be if they overbill, like for instance, customary. What's the term?
It's the usual reasonable customary charge. So
yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times they might charge you $1,000 for something, where it's only the reasonable customary charges are only like $250. And then the next thing is, are they going to pay the $250? Have you reached your deductible for the year? Because a lot of times people have really large deductibles. Right. So that $250, not the $1,000 that you paid, is going to go towards your deductible, which could be anywhere between $2,000 to sometimes even $40,000.
Wow. So you'll be able to help them with that too. What are other scenarios that you've helped your clients?
Well, here's a fine example of something I learned right before our meeting tonight. I'm very excited. This gentleman came to me. He was born with not all of his limbs.
Okay.
And he had, he needs prosthetics. So he came to me maybe even 8 years ago. and I got the insurance company to pay it. And then he came to me again, maybe about 5 years ago.
Right.
And again, I got the insurance company to pay it. So now he's again, because they're not replacing his limb, they're out of network of the people who make these
Right.
limbs for him. Okay.
Right.
And I said, I have to tell you, I said to this woman, I said, listen, I said, if this was your child and he was born without limbs, and even though your insurance company, she's got a high position there, I said, even in your insurance company, you paid for it twice. And now he needs the replacement for that limb, which you're not going to cover from that insurance company. I said, how would that make you feel if this was your child? Wow. And I am telling you, he wrote to me today. I wrote her an email, immediate response. They're covering it.
That's beautiful. Oh my gosh. See, the people who work for insurance are human beings. It's just a matter of how do you get to their heart? And you did that. And wow, what a story. What a story. I know that you helped me with something. And I don't know if you remember helping me. My daughter had to go to the hospital for a procedure when she was out in college. And I got the bill and it said that we owed, due to deductibles, $933.33. And you picked it apart for me and you gave me the lingo and the verbiage. And when I called them, I did end up appealing through financial hardship because she's a college student. And, and I had my daughter on the phone with me. We appealed it and we just got the letter. My daughter got the letter 2 days ago that 100% was removed from her owing. So I thank you for that.
I'm so happy.
Real life example. So I appreciate that. So I know your perseverance to me is unbelievable and amazing. And you've been in business now for over 20 some, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
In those 20 years, what would you say has been the best outcome for one of your clients? And you may already have told me the story, but I want to hear one of your, oh my gosh, this is why I do this.
One of the toughest cases that I had, the woman was going to NYU. She had insurance through the state of New York. And between NYU and the state, they decided that on this policy, she would not be able to go to NYU. She had stage 4 cancer. She's in her 4th year of stage 4 cancer.
Oh, boy.
And let me tell you, I was fighting with the insurance company. I was fighting with the hospital. And finally, when they made, they call them exceptions. When they made an exception through her insurance carrier to pay the claim, she died 3 weeks before.
No. Wow. So
I'm telling you, my heart, her family, her parents. I remember making a Shiva call to the house. I mean, this is their daughter. And then she never was married. She never had children, but she had horses. Oh. So the money that we got back that was paid, because they were after her for like $1.5 million. Once that was done, that money has been used to take care of the horses.
Oh, that's beautiful. What a story. Oh, what a shame for the young lady. But the family must have been so appreciative of you and what you did for their daughter. Unbelievable. The audience, Adria, certainly has captured the essence of Adria Gross, and they're going to want to get in touch with you. So, folks, best way to get in touch with Adria will be her email address, which we'll have in the show notes. It's adria@medicalinsuranceadvocacy.com. medicalinsuranceadvocacy.com. So, Adria, is there anything else you want to tell the audience before I ask you the 2 final questions?
Well, when you ask me the 2 final questions, I'll give you a better understanding of what I experienced.
Okay. All right. Here's the first question. You're sitting down with 7 to 10-year-old Adria, and you want to give her advice about life. what are you going to tell her?
Try very hard to do the best that you can. And don't worry about the results. Don't worry. You just got to try the best that you can and do what you have been taught to be right. And you're learning, and you have to put yourself in other people's positions. Like what I did with that woman.
Yeah.
When I said to her, if this was your child,
Yeah.
I have to say, living with my condition as long as I did taught me a lot how to respect other people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wow. Now you're sitting down with Adria, the young businesswoman, young entrepreneur, and you want to give her advice about business. What would you tell her?
Push yourself. I learned when I worked for the insurance company, they really push you. And what I mentioned earlier is you have to put yourself in somebody else's position to understand how they feel.
Right.
And I think that in itself is a value. And don't ever, boy, oh boy. Even before I had the brain surgery, I said to myself, do I want to have a disability for the rest of my life? Or do I want to give this a chance? Should I see if it's going to work? And when I fell down outside of, what happened was I used to get grand malls. I would usually fall. And sometimes I couldn't talk for 4 hours. Wow. And I'll never forget, I had a fall before I had the brain surgery. I was scared I was going to turn into a vegetable. I was very frightened. And I met people who had the surgery before me. But I remember having the fall, couldn't talk. The doctor's feeling my body. I broke a rib. I'm like, ow, but I couldn't say where the pain was or what happened.
Sure.
And you never have fear. I remember for the longest period of time, I was hiding. I wouldn't tell anybody that I had epilepsy with fear of not being hired.
Right. And
then when I received that award for the insurance, it was not the insurance professionals. It was the insurance professionals. Before I got that 25-year award, when I received that award, I was sitting with a good friend of mine, and they were nominating me because I after I had the brain surgery, I thought, okay, what can I do to help other people? Right. I want to help myself. I want to help others. I always feel like I have to give back. Right. So I knew that there was not a YMCA in Monroe, New York for my children, and I started Y. I did Leadership Barnes, who gave me the idea, and I started the Y. So when I spoke at West Point,
right,
nobody knew about my past. Okay. Everything was a secret.
Sure.
Yeah. So here I am. Okay, I'm receiving the award. And my girlfriend says to me, Adria, this is what you have to do. You got to tell him. And I'm like, 4 hours, one Sunday afternoon. And here we're talking. She's pushing. And I finally said, yes. So what I'm getting at is this. If you don't have the fear and you are expose yourself of something that really shouldn't be harming you, but you have that fear, you know what? Do it. Because once I got up there at West Point, and I'm telling these people, there are about 200 companies there. And I said, listen, most of you don't know anything about me. You don't know about my past. Even when I started this wine, I've accomplished a lot. But I told them about how sick I was and what happened. And I told them that this is what pushed me. And every single thing that I do now is because of that. When you look back and you look at yourself and you look at your own experience that you went through and you think to yourself, how can I better myself? Yeah. How can I better people?
Right.
That's how I live my life.
I love it. Adria, thank you so much for being who you are. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for JoJo for introducing us. But thank you for being the human being you are, because you could have easily gone through what you went through and kept it to yourself. But you decided you needed to share it with the world and help others in addition to helping yourself. It's a beautiful thing you're doing, and please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
So everybody out there, never give up. If you feel like you are ready to give up, don't cave in. You can, just like Adria did, you can crush it. So keep your chin up, keep doing what you're doing, and you can go from caving in to crushing it. Thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.